We all know how powerful AI is, but its relevance in Indian context and its ability to have a very huge impact on masses is unfolding in real time right now. When it comes to consumer AI in a few years, India will be world's biggest, if not one of the biggest markets.
Fintech is a crowded space,
Yeah.
and it's easy for one to assume everything is done. How did you decide to get into financial services or fintech?
There was a very fundamental trust gap that a lot of users had because it was, or fintech products were not very easy for an average user to understand.
I think it's very easy to assume that the credit worthiness or credit scoring or knowing what impacts your credit score is a knowledge problem. You and Oolka essentially realized that this is not just about information.
Yes.
This is about actioning.
We are doing the heavy lifting on closing the loop. We are not just telling the user what to do, we are doing it on their behalf.
What should a consumer tech founder think about if they're building using AI or when it comes to defensibility? Hello everyone, welcome to Lunchbreak with Lightspeed, and today is a very special episode. We're talking to UK, the founder of Oolka, one of the leading consumer tech AI companies in India. Very excited to ask some deep questions to UK and share his learnings with everybody. Hi UK.
Hi Harsha, thanks for having me.
Very good to have you here. Before we kick this off, I have a googly of a question for you. What do you feel will be the biggest takeaway for your listeners today?
So we all know how powerful AI is, and generally, we believe that the power of intelligence that comes with AI is going to unlock a lot. But its relevance in Indian context and its ability to have a very huge impact on masses is what is unfolding in real time right now. And its relevance to India to actually solve very difficult problems at scale, which was not feasible in pre-AI era because of the cost it would take to solve those, is where we are going to see a massive, massive movement. And I do believe that when it comes to consumer AI in a few years, India will be world's biggest, if not one of the biggest markets.
I like what you said. I think this idea that so far, given the price point
Yes.
where these models are, a lot of the, maybe like the top 20-30% of the world is using AI.
Yes.
And that in the next few years, we will see this unfold into what the masses need at the price point that the masses need.
Yes.
And India will probably lead that journey. I fully agree with that. Thank you for sharing that. You can tell me, you were a chief business officer at Meesho, which IPO'd, and congratulations on that. I know you're a rich guy, you're definitely richer than me. But how did you take the decision to move on from that? It was a very interesting job with very, very, very smart, interesting people. You decided to move on and start up in fintech and in AI. Help us understand why.
So my stint at Meesho was, the learning was like drinking from a fire hose, right? So the problems that Meesho solved at scale for mass India was phenomenal. And I had this feeling that if some of similar design principles could be applied in a very different sector to solve for challenges which are different but are very meaningful to a user's life, is where I could see the opening of a new J curve. Of course, on a personal level, I really wanted to build something of my own. So that was definitely one of the triggers. But more importantly, it was building for Bharat at scale, understanding the trade-offs between funnel and flywheel, and how you can build a very strong consumer journey, a loop that gets stronger with every new outcome achieved in a sector like fintech, and then definitely would love to expand more on it in the discussion. is what excited me and led to me moving and starting Oolka.
Well, let's expand on it actually, because fintech is a crowded space, and it's easy for one to assume everything is done. There's a player for everything in fintech.
Yes.
How did you decide to get into financial services or fintech?
So there were some very strong tailwinds that were visible. On one hand, the TAM of credit was expanding non-linearly. More and more users were becoming credit active. They were taking loans. They were getting new credit cards. Also, the broader credit worthiness of an Indian consumer was not keeping pace with how the credit penetration was increasing, and some data points about only 7% of Indian users are super prime, while in US that number is as high as 24%. So while penetration was increasing, education was not keeping pace with it. There was a very fundamental trust gap that a lot of users had, because it was or fintech products were not very easy for an average user to understand. So they'll not understand the difference between an APR and an interest rate, how processing fee plays into the equation. They were not aware that some of the loans that they had taken, if they were a co-guarantor, it could impact their credit score too. They did not understand how credit score worked, while the awareness of credit score was through the roof. And it was becoming difficult for them to understand what their best product for them was, right? So while everyone could get a loan, there was not enough insight whether this loan is right for you. And there we could see a very strong opening. And in addition, I also felt that the existing mega fintech distributors had started to act more like manufacturers. So basically, from a user lens, users were confused whether this platform is actually helping me or is this platform selling me a product. And that is where we could feel that a true user-first fintech product could be reimagined, which is not transaction first, but which is trying to help users understand what their current credit state is, how can they become more creditworthy, and in the process help them choose what is the best financial instrument for them.
Very insightful. And you said that there are products that are selling things to the user versus helping the user.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because that's a shift that you can now do with AI.
Yes.
Right? Where traditionally when you built apps, all you could do is build a discovery and a transaction layer.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But now because of AI and conversations, you're now able to also build a helpfulness layer.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. What, as you started building Oolka, I'm curious to know, what do you feel is the aha moment for a user who comes on the product? Is there a vision where you would like for it to go?
Since we have a lot of context on the user, and we have fine-tuned our models to help tailor not just advice to the user, but also actions for the user in a very hyper-personalized, a very contextual way. The aha moment happens much sooner. So if I were to give you an example, let us say a user comes on the app, puts in his PAN number, and with their permission, we fetch a lot of structured data that we have on the user. And we are able to see information that is not visible to, a lot of users or even lenders for that matter. So we can figure out that for this particular user, there is some money that is lying in one of their credit cards, which they have already closed. Or we can find out that for their particular home loan, their interest rates have not been revised for last 2 years while the repo rates have come down. So on one hand, we understand this specific user pain point or user helpful information. We then explain this to the user. Our agent named Dhruva will start this discussion as soon as they are onboarded on how we can help them on this frontier. But the aha moment is when this app goes beyond a companion mode, right? So it's not limited to advice, but our ability to then just take an action with users' consent, where these journeys start to get initiated. And in a matter of seconds, user who was not even aware of some of the challenges that was hampering his creditworthiness or his financial prosperity have not only been diagnosed, but they have also been actioned upon. And then there is a complete feedback loop. Depending on the timelines, these issues start to get resolved. And that leads to a massive trust that unfolds, and users then keep coming back and keep sharing more, keep asking more questions. And that's the aha moment of today. When we look at the vision in the long run, what we believe that what AI today is enabling is a hyper-personalized workflow where there is an advice which is like a relationship manager who understands your context and helps you with a specific advice and a specific actionable that is very relevant for you. But end of the day, when it comes to choosing a product, it's still not hyper personalized to a user's needs. So we believe that our ability to influence and shape the ecosystem to build financial products for the user, which are tailor-made for them. So, if you have a loan that could be serviced depending on your needs, you don't need to have a monthly EMI option. You can, choose to pay a lot of it upfront. When it comes to insurance, you can have an insurance policy that is totally tailored to your needs. And we believe that this was not feasible in a non-AI world, but our ability to remove all sorts of bundled pieces from a user's financial product journey and make it completely unbundled so that every user has access to a very unique product is what we see the future we want to work towards.
Very exciting. So not just hyper-personalized experience, but also hyper-personalized financial products.
Yes.
Very interesting. You are at several million users now.
Yes.
You're scaling well. I'm curious, what is the thing that has surprised you the most about what your users want from Oolka, what you didn't expect they would be wanting? And on the flip side, right, what did you think they would want, but they don't, right? So how have your users surprised you, essentially?
Yeah, no, great question. And I think the answer to both the questions are kind of interlinked, right? So what we definitely underestimated was the intensity of, the challenges that a user today faces, right? So if I were to just talk about, a user who is a bus operator in a North Indian tier 2 city, he was finding it tough to get a loan for his daughter. He wanted a laptop for his daughter, and he was finding it very tough to get a loan, and his score was not great, and he just could not understand why this is such a huge challenge, and why he's not even getting a laptop on EMI because his score being an issue. Our ability to diagnose the challenge being a very small amount in one of his earlier loans that he had taken, which was reflecting as an overdue, our ability to settle it. And then, within 30 days, his scores improved and he could go back and get this laptop for his daughter.
Wow.
Was amazing because the kind of feedback that we started to see from him, the ability, the impact it had on his life, right? From a very high stress situation where this meant a lot to a scenario where he could access it because he could not buy a laptop from his monthly salary. He needed an EMI option, which he was not getting. The extent of trust that it ended up building and the impact it had on his life was something that we totally under-indexed. And similarly, if I were to say it on the flip side, earlier we were trying to show a lot of information. We were trying to be information dense to tell a user what all needs to be fixed. Our ability to move from, being very intelligent and information dense to a lot more useful for the user and then drive these outcomes for them is what was, slightly counterintuitive because we felt that it was a problem of information asymmetry where these users were not aware, but we realized that we don't need another utilitarian app which just tells you from an information lens what all you need to do, but we needed something that is that's less DIY and more done for the user, and that is where we saw a very, very heavy pull. Yeah.
I think it's very easy to assume that the credit worthiness or credit scoring or knowing what impacts your credit score is a knowledge problem.
Yeah.
But what I find fascinating is that, you and Oolka essentially realized that this is not just about information.
Yes.
This is about actioning
Yeah.
on that information.
Yes.
We always apply this thesis to education, right?
Yeah.
Like where education as a market without outcomes, you rarely see large companies getting built, right? You need to tie the delivery of knowledge with an outcome.
Yes.
And it's interesting to apply the same paradigm to fintech.
Yeah.
That it's not just about giving information, it's about actioning it. And then the trust that builds. I think it's in the story about the father who wanted to buy a laptop. Oh, I'm moved.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, and India, in that lens, is a very unique market, right?
Yeah.
Because generally, we have had an ecosystem where DIY has not really worked to the fullest extent. We have generally seen that the socioeconomic way things have progressed in the country is where things have been done for them, right? So there is also some sort of an expectation in users' heads on, and second, there is some inertia, and it's also not easy. The infra is not conducive enough for a lot of these actioning to happen in a very smooth manner, right? So someone needs to do the heavy plumbing and ensure that the actioning is happening, and once the actioning starts to happen, then outcomes start to show. Yeah.
I think that's extremely insightful. I remember discussing this internally actually at Lightspeed, where we spoke about how in India, which is unlike the West, right? If you go shopping, in the Western markets, you are left to yourself, right? You're looking for your own clothes and you're looking for your own shoes and going through materials. In fact, in shoe shops, you're actually checking if the stock is there in your size, and you're picking out your own size shoe. But in India, there's a salesman. And you tell them, I wanted my size. He comes and measures your size. Then he goes to his warehouse, gets you your size, and you try. It's such a, do it for me market. Even when it comes to shopping, somebody's doing it for us. Again, powerful. I love how you applied something that seems so simple to something so complex. And you're seeing the outcome of it, right? Incredible. Let me ask you a very basic question, and I'm sure it's a question that every investor is asking themselves, especially when it comes to consumer tech, right? What makes the product defensible, right? Why would someone else not build a companion that asks the right questions and solve a problem for a user? Why would horizontal LLMs not end up doing this themselves, right? What makes a product in consumer tech, in AI, defensible?
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I'll try to answer this question. So the way we are building Oolka, we are trying to build not just features, but we are building an end-to-end consumer journey, right? So what does that mean is, on one hand, you have a lot of fine-tuned LLM responses which are based on structured inputs which are relevant to fintech. And of course, a lot of unstructured data that comes through the user. But in addition, if you look at, what we are trying to do, we are not trying to be a companion. We are trying to be an agent. So what does that mean is we are doing the heavy lifting on closing the loop. So we are not just telling the user what to do, we are doing it on their behalf. What does that mean? That it needs us to build or have robust partnerships with players in the ecosystem, with NBFCs, with banks. We are, we are an RIA, so we have account aggregator information on behalf of the user with user's consent. So we've gone very deep in building this end-to-end journey, which we believe that a horizontal LLM will not be keen to get into. In addition, of course, we believe that this compounds. So basically, if a user comes to discuss credit score issues with you, their lendability challenges, and as we serve them well, they start to discuss other aspects of their personal finance, right? And that gives us a lot more data on the challenges that are more, about the user personas we are targeting, and then our ability to serve those users even better, right? So there is a very virtuous loop that keeps on compounding, which is some sort of a flywheel. And that, in a sense, becomes a moat Of course, in addition, we do believe that end of the day, speed of shipping and the quality benchmarks you have are going to be temporary modes, which we definitely have a very high benchmark for. Plus, I mean, distribution cross memory is what is going to be very powerful. And if I were to explain with an example, we had a user who few months back talked about marriage in his family and why he needed to buy a two-wheeler for the same. And with a knowledge memory graph, which is built for fintech, our ability to have this information handy for the user at the right juncture, so that there is a very strong continuity in user experience. And when he's looking for a two-wheeler loan, it doesn't come as a push, but it is more contextual and user backwards in their lending journey, is what an aha moment for us looked like. And we do believe that some of this is not feasible if you're not very much verticalized in your focus. And if you're not looking to build the complete end-to-end user journey.
How much financial information a user would share with your platform versus a horizontal platform is likely to be massively different.
Yes.
And I think that you're saying gives you unique insight into what you offer, how you sell, cross-sell,
Yes.
when you do it, and as a result, what is the experience that the user has?
Yeah.
Changes. Of course, there's a huge element of offline partnerships with other financial institutes.
Yes.
I'm curious, if you abstract out, how you're building Oolka to consumer tech more generally, right? Like, what should a consumer tech founder think about if they're building using AI when it comes to defensibility, right? So if you abstract your learnings from Oolka, what would be some 2 or 3 takeaways that a consumer tech founder could have if they're building an AI and they want their solution to be defensible?
I wanted to refer to Paul Graham's recent tweet where he mentioned that a lot of founders today worry about whether their business will be eaten up by a horizontal LLM in future. And his response was that, this is similar to saying your life will be so hectic if you become a very popular movie star, right? So it's more likely that you won't become a movie star than you worrying about the pain it would cause you, right? So my suggestion to anyone building in consumer AI is to not be worried about whether a horizontal platform is coming for you. What is more important is whether you are solving a unique user problem, and if you're driving an outcome for the user, right? So if you're solving a unique user problem, if you can double down on it, if your NPS for the users are very high, and if your users cannot live without the problem that you are solving for them, that itself is a huge foundation to build things on.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, every problem statement that you try to solve has its own nuances, has its own context. And since you are going to be all in on solving that user problem, your ability to solve it better than any other horizontal play that is trying to solve a million problems at the same time will be far, far more stronger. Yeah.
I think that people underestimate the power of verticalization, specialization, and depth. And I think the deeper you are into a use case, the better your solution is. Yes. It's constantly underestimated.
Yes.
So thank you for spelling that out. My last question.
Yeah.
If everything went right, what does a day in the life of an Oolka user look like 5 years from now?
The power of AI today is to, and at least for an Oolka user, is to have a relationship manager that understands your needs very well, right? That is giving you a personalized, not just a personalized guidance, but also a personalized solution that helps you improve your financial well-being. Few years down the line, on one hand, we believe that we'll have, behind our agent, millions of smaller agents working on different nuances of a user's financial life through the clock without them needing constant supervision or constant approvals. And on the other hand, we also believe that this will lead to a world where users will have a different benchmark of what they expect from the ecosystem. So a personalized advice will lead to personalized products. And as manufacturers in the ecosystem continue to imbibe and become more AI native, their ability to push solutions which are very hyper personal to the user. So a product or an insurance product or a wealth product, which is not one size fits all, but has been tailored and designed keeping in mind the needs of an ordinary citizen, is what the future looks like. And we are hopeful that we'll continue to work towards shaping that future.
Awesome. Thank you so much for a very insightful session,
Thank you.
UK,
Thanks.
and
Thanks
thanks
for
for
having
coming
me,
over.
Harsha. Thank you.